we're going back now to continue learning about Noah. And we said that what is this relevant to us nowadays? That Noah suffered through this flood that destroyed the world, but it wasn't, the purpose was not to destroy the world, because God could have easily just had everybody die in their sleep. What did Noah have to have a flood for? So it said the flood came to purify. The flood came to purify. Okay, good. But that's a story already. That's like, what's it, 4,000 plus 400,000 something years ago, 4,300 years ago. What's this got to do with us? But it says what it has to do with us is nowadays also there's a flood, and a flood purifies. What's the flood? The flood is the worries that we have about the world, whether they're imaginary worries or whether they're actual worries. People, for instance, Jews, even if the Jew wants to be a religious Jew and he wants to do what God says and he wants to improve the world, you have problems about how to make a living. And when you're in the world, there is the troubles and various genuine dangers that are in the world, and frustrations of this, and those things drive a person crazy. Those things drive a person crazy. All the difficulties that there are, problems with family, problems with livelihood, problems with health. But the main problem is the problem of livelihood, because everybody has to work somehow or other to make a living, and that's already fraught with difficulties and how do you say, unpleasant surprises. People get evicted from their homes. People that they have to move from one place to another. There's famines. There's this. So the fact that we have to deal with the world, and that the world is often very fickle, as that is a very confusing thing for Jewish people, for all people, but for Jews especially. Because we have an obligation that we're supposed to fix up the world, and we're supposed to improve the world, and we're supposed to be good examples to the world. And instead, the world attacks us, right? With all these different problems and difficulties that we have. So the Rebbe says, in fact, why is it? Well, I mean, God is the boss. God makes this happen. Why does He make it happen? He says, when we deal, Jew deals with the problems of the world, and of course, the Jews are supposed to be the example for the whole entire world, because everybody has these problems, but how to deal with them properly. So ideally, it's supposed to bring us to believe that there's a creator, and the creator provides for us if we act, think, speak properly. And one of the main things is we have to trust. We have to trust in the creator. We have to appreciate the creator. We have to thank the creator. So why would a person want to do that? Because the creator is good. But what if you don't feel that the creator is good? So that's another big problem. That's one of the big problems of the world, that the world confuses us and distracts us. So the Rebbe gave us yesterday we learned a whole a series, a whole system of thought and contemplation that we can think about to make us sort of clean our glasses and focus our vision so that we can see godliness in everything. Beginning with the world, that God is creating the world, and that everything in the world is not is separated from the creator. The world itself is a creation, and God is creating it all the time. And He's creating it ideally for our benefit. Starting with the upper worlds, the heavens, the spiritual levels. You don't know that there's heavens, you don't know there's spiritual levels. Learn a bit of Chassidut, And Chassidut explains to you about all these upper worlds and these heavens, angels, and they're all just creations of God. Then you start to appreciate the Creator more. And especially when you start to realize that the Creator is creating me. And He provides for everything. It says, when a person thinks about this deeply, la'achar, he's bonus, calling now, when you think about this deeply, then your soul will be aroused to have love. We did this yesterday, so I'm going over it quickly. You'll have love with a tremendous desire. My pointer here. Just one moment. And the more you think about it, your heart can even get aroused. Barish Pe'esh, with flaming fire. Now, this is mainly for the Jewish people. The Jewish people have this natural, deep affinity, desire for the Creator of the universe. That's the religion of Judaism, is only the Creator, nothing in between. Us and the Creator. And then we have to have Moses, we have to have Mashiach, we have to have the Rebbe, we have to this. That's only in order to bring us to a greater appreciation, to wake us up who we are. Namely, what? That every Jew has a love of God. Now, when you have this love of God, then that changes your whole outlook on the world. Suddenly you realize that you're not alone, you're never alone, and that even more, you're really lucky to be here and fortunate. And that God put us here for a reason, namely to improve the world that's around us. But you can only come to this love by means of being in the world. Only when the world affects us and we're forced to be strong, we're forced to find new meaning, new power, to discover who we really are. Only then does our soul start to become really active. It can also make us crazy, right? The troubles of the world can also destroy us, right? That's also because the troubles are real troubles. We're talking about our soul. Soul is who we are, so it can truly break us. But on the other hand, if a person realizes who we are and takes a stand and defies the world, then suddenly you realize that you have power to do so, that in fact the world can never really drown us. And that's what Noah realized. So it says that's how it comes. The Rebbe gives all these Kabbalistic reasons, and then you can come to this level of loving God with all of your being. Shehu Kli believable. This is without any limit. Like we said before, Shehu Madrigas a Yoser Gavot, this is the highest level. This is Shehi Madrigas a Yoser Gavot. This is a level which is higher Kodem Yurana Sabaguf than it was before it came into the body. Then it was just getting pleasure from the ray. The soul in heaven is getting a pleasure from a ray of God. But by means of being in the world and realizing that we have to contact our soul in order to survive, and even more, we have to contact our soul in order to improve the situation, then we come to even a higher level. That pressure brings us to a higher level than it was before. Lefi, because the source of the soul is much, much higher. The source of the soul is tremendously high, and it can only be revealed, the godly soul, and it can only be revealed through the animal soul. All right, now maybe a short explanation over here. I don't want to take this for granted that people know what I'm talking about. There is, every Jew in the second chapter of the Tanya especially explains what is the main difference, the most outstanding difference between a Jew and a non-Jew. So a Jew in the Torah is called the sons of God. All the Jews are called the sons of God. There's a whole religion based on the fact that one Jew called himself the son of God, and the billions of people worship this guy, and they're all, going crazy and worshiping him. But the fact of the matter is, every Jew is the son of God. So the the big ruckus that this person made, the way it came out into a way of idolatry. That they're worshiping this person. That's forbidden. And also that this person said that he could change the Torah and he was that. That's even more forbidden. But the fact of the matter, the basic fact of the matter is, in other words, this initial claim that he's the person is the son of God and that everybody should get excited about it, this is a true claim because it's relevant to every Jew. Every Jew in the Torah is called the son of God. Every Jew. And so what this means is that every Jew, his relationship to God is one of like a father to a son. It's a deep, internal, unending relationship. And Chassidut explains that there's even deeper connections, but at least let's deal with this. So it's a very deep, intimate, personal relationship that a son has to a father that no one else has to this person, right? There could be a person, whoever it is, the Mr. Groyce, and he's got a next door neighbor and he has people to work with him. He's a wonderful person. Everybody likes him, but it's no comparison to the way his son is connected to him. Right? A son, even if he's the worst father in the world, but a son is a son, right? A son is a son. He's a deep connection to his father, could be not revealed. But that's the connection. So that's what's called the godly soul of the Jew. The godly soul of the Jew, that's the part that feels that the Jewish people are the sons of God, every Jew. But then the Jews are also people. They live in the world and they have a natural soul. And that's called, in the time, it's called an animal soul. It's called an animal soul in comparison to the godly soul. It's an animal soul because it acts automatically. It reacts to the world. So why does God put the godly soul into the animal soul, into the natural soul? It makes the natural soul dominant. Why does he do it? In order that we should eskafia, by means of forcing ourselves to defy the natural soul, forcing ourselves to defy all of the negative reactions we have to the world, whether it's lust or whether it's the fear. By forcing ourselves, eskafia is by means of this we bring this dead world back to life. We read godliness in the world. That's what the rabbis say. Yafeshachas, it's good, it's better. One moment, tshuva, maisim tovim, tshuva, what's called return to God and doing good deeds in this world, mikol chai olam haba, than all the life of the world to come. Well, therefore, it's called mayim rabim. That's why these troubles and the confusion of the world is called flood waters. They're called turbulent waters like of Noah. Excuse me, make this a little bigger. Oh. And they're called the waters of Noah, because they made Neiche Derucha, because this makes pleasure to God and to us. Shenasamim Tevas Noach. Therefore, because of these flood waters, so Noah was forced to make a ark, a box. A teva is a box. He made this boat, this strange boat that was covered from all sides, completely closed. That's why it's called a box. Shehu bechinas teva, tefillah, that is called a box of prayer. The word teva means a box, but it also means letters and words. Tevot, the words of Torah and the words of prayer. What is it that saves us from the flood? Especially prayer. Like it says, like God said, come you and your whole family into the ark. But don't just say he came into the ark. God is giving us advice also. You want to be saved from the troubles of the world? Come into the letters, the words of prayer, the prayers of King David. Sometime read the book of Psalms. You ever read the book of Psalms? Interesting book. King David wrote it. It's one of the books of the Torah. King David wrote it from his own personal experiences, or he compiled from others, but they were all personal experiences, and most of them are pleas to God, pleas, begging God for help, for protection, for being saved from enemies, physical enemies. King David had enemies that wanted to kill him. His own children, his best friends, all of Israel eventually wanted to kill him. Right? He was just left with a few hundred men when his son Absalom made a revolution against him. And King David was praying. King Saul wanted to kill him. From the beginning of his life, King David was pursued. And so he wrote this book, which is called Psalms. And the book of Psalms, it's very beautiful. But if you read it and just translate it and read it, you'll see it's a pretty awful book. I mean, it's very depressing, right? The things that King David had to go through, especially seeing as he was a very religious Jew. And he really believed in God. And all he got for it was troubles. One after trouble, turn the page, new troubles. If you, I'll turn the page, new troubles. Once in a while, he's praising God, he's thanking God. And those are the praises that we use in our prayers in the morning to praise God. But the majority, I think, I mean, I've never really counted it, but the majority of his Psalms are just, from desperation and crying out for help to God. So that's what King David did. In all the troubles that he had, he went into the ark, the words, same teva. He went into the words of prayer. Oh, that's what it means, that the waters became very powerful. 15 almas above. Gavru Amayim, the water became powerful. Shehu bechinas tigvoras nefesh abahamis. This water is talking about the animal soul, our own animal, natural soul, how we react to the world. Al bechinas nefesh alokis, on the godly soul, be'esek aparnasa, b'inyanim gashmim, in physical things in the world. I mean, maybe, listen, I don't want to get into politics, and I'm not going to get into politics, but a little bit. We see now what's going on in the world, that the whole world is against, coming out against Israel, right? All the little by little, right? Little by little. The American government is coming out. They were against from the beginning, but the American government is coming out, and everybody's going against Israel, right? And they're all going against Israel. Israel is, they're murderers, they're baby murderers, and we're killing. Okay, but the fact of the matter is that the reason that they're against us, and the reason we were attacked in the beginning, right, by the Hamas and these people, is not because we hold anybody's land. It's not because we hold land. They're attacking us and hating us the same reason that Hitler hated us. We didn't own any of his land. We didn't know he conquered these lands and went and looked for old people in the forests where they were hiding, babies and women and children, right? And you think it's changed? It hasn't changed. It's the same exact thing. When was the Holocaust? 70 years ago, 75 years ago. Man's nature has not changed. Back then, the whole world was quiet. And now the world has a chance to yell out because we have the land of Israel. And interestingly enough, the whole reason that the Zionist movement was made was to stop anti-Semitism. They thought they would make their country and that people wouldn't hate us anymore. We'd show them we're just like them. We're just like all the other nations, and we have a nation, we have an army, and that we'll prove to them that we're just like them. We can intermarry and we can be like everybody else. That was the Zionist ideal. Little by little, they're starting to realize that the world is like these floodwaters, And the only way that we're going to survive is by holding on to the Judaism. Judaism is the thing that's going to save us, right? The Zionists thought that Judaism was our big enemy. We're going to get away from it. We're going to make a Jewish state, and eventually we'll just sort of evaporate into the rest of the world. We'll be dissolved. But suddenly we're realizing that no, that's the ark that's going to save us. The whole world is turning against us, not because of any political reasons, because of spiritual reasons. The world hates the Jews, anti-Semitism, and little by little it's become real. It's just called now anti-Israeli, anti-Zionism, this, whatever. So the world now, the troubles of the world are forcing the Jews to connect and to reveal their godly soul, their godly identity, because the world hates us because we're good, right? That's my 3-word explanation for the Holocaust. Nazis were evil. That's all. That's the whole Holocaust explained in 3 words. The Nazis were evil, or are evil. And that's why they hated the Jews, because they were evil, and they just hated. I mean, they hated everybody. They killed a lot of other people, but the Jews especially. They made a special focus on the Jews, right? And the other nations they wanted to conquer, and once they conquered them, they left them alone. But the Jews, no, they wanted to exterminate them totally. They weren't interested in conquering anything. And why? Because the Jews are good, and these people, they were evil. They were just murderers. The Germans murdered like 27 million Russians, right? They're just murderers, that's all. But their idea was once they murdered them, they would conquer their nations. That was it. Not with the Jews. So this flood that's going on now is raising the Jews up to the point where they realize that the only thing that's going to save them is their identity, their Judaism. They have to realize that the focus is not against the land of Israel. If we didn't have the land of Israel, things wouldn't change, right? We saw this with Hitler. Anti-Semitism is always going to be, but now it's become like a big, people are proud, they're happy to hate Judaism. They hate Judaism, but they do it in the form of Zionism. So it's okay to say in the newspapers. And so it says, but that's the troubles of this world. But by means of this, or there's a better type of light. When suddenly the Jews, I'm telling you that I go around in Israel and I ask Jews to put on tefillin, and you can't believe the interest there is now, right? And there used to be people that would say, no, leave me alone. They would say, no, I don't want to. They're almost a little bit sort of like, regretful, reticent to say, I don't want to put on tefillin. Because they're starting to realize that being a Jew and expressing your Judaism, it's not a religious thing. It's not a religious thing. This is a thing from the creator of the universe. The creator of the universe is good. And somehow or other, the creator of the universe is creating trees and rocks and plants and things like that. He is the one that wants the Jews to put on tefillin. And that changes the whole world. That's called going into the ark. That's what it means that the ark went on the face of the water, that it was elevated by means of the water, by means of these turbulent waters, mitalot tevos, these words of prayer go up. Lamaila. When your prayers come from a broken heart, when they come from the troubles of the world, then they're truly meaningful. And that's what's happening now. Suddenly the world is forcing us to realize that God is our hope, and that the reason that they're going against the Jews is because they're going against God. They hate God. They hate the Creator. This is the mistake of businessmen. That they think that they can't pray so much like the people who sit and learn Torah all the time, because they can't clear their mind. It says the Rebbe exactly the opposite. Nafochu. Where did the deepest prayers of King David come from? When he was troubled, when he was confused by the world, or the world wanted to confuse him. The same thing was businessmen. they are able to pray better. Or because the better type of light comes from the darkness. Those are the businessmen. They're the people that are really in the world. They can really pray. There's a story which is told about the Maggid of Mezrich, that somebody came in to him and said that they had a son that was sick and that they wanted him to be healed. And the Maggid of Mezrich said, okay, give me $1 million. They said, $1 million, right? That's a Ford. We haven't got that much money. He said, either give me $1 million or I'm not gonna pray for him. What type of a thing is that? Come on, we need your prayers, Rebbe. He says, $1 million, I'm not praying. The person says, listen, forget it, I'm going to pray myself. The Rebbe said, that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted, right? You're desperate, pray yourself, pray for yourself. That's the best prayers because they come from the essence of your heart. And by the way, that's one of the reasons that people really do go to the Rebbe and ask for help. I just saw a video the other day that someone related that his mother was very sick. And this was right in the beginning when the Rebbe was just becoming Rebbe, like in 1950 or 50, 51, 52, I'm sorry. So he heard of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So he went to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and he said, I heard about you and, I'm very desperate. We've been to the doctors and my mother is very sick. And could you please give her a blessing? And he saw that the Rebbe was crying. He saw the Rebbe, he said that this man really cared about my mother. He didn't know my mother. He didn't know me. I'm not a Chabad Chassid. And he saw that because another Jew was suffering as he was paying deeply. He said, so the interviewer was saying, well, what about your mother? He said, he prayed that she got better, but that's not the thing that impressed me. Of course, that impressed me very much. My mother got better, his blessing worked, but I saw there was a human being that really cared about other human beings that he didn't even know. And that's why people went to the Rebbe, because other people's troubles, he really felt other people's troubles. And that's why it says, when you feel the problems of the world, then your prayers are better. That's why it's called the waters of Noah, Naicha Derucha, a pleasing spirit to God. Noach means to be pleasing also. Shu Bechinas HaShabbat, this is the level of Shabbat. Like it says, Kibush Shabbat Mikomel. That Shabbat comes after the 6 days of work. Shebo Shebevav, that in the 6 days of work that we work, Hu Bechinas Ispashtus, a person leaves himself. He becomes involved in the world. The 6 days of the week, this draws down godliness into the world. Like in Yom Rishon, it says Vayomer Elokim Or. We work 6 days because God worked 6 days. 6 days God created the world. On the first day, it says God created the light. On the second day, God created the division. On the third day, God created the firmament and he made trees or whatever. Shenikram Yemei Maisa. These are called days of work. And we simulate, so to speak, God. We're God's people. The 6 days we work. But on Shabbat, this is resting from work. Naicha Derucha. That's on Shabbat. That was Noach. He rested. This is Aliyah Sa'olamos Lamaila, elevating the worlds above. A person rests from his work. What happens on Shabbat? The idea of Shabbat is that we're supposed to remember that there's a creator. And we're supposed to remember that the creator is with us and the creator cares and the creator is creating the world and is infinitely close to us and that he's infinitely, infinitely real. He creates all reality. But in the rest of the week, we can't think of that because we're involved in the world. On Shabbat, we're totally connected to the Creator. So the question is, why doesn't God just make everything Shabbat? What do we have to have? It's because we're here to fix the world. The main thing, 6/7 of our being is devoted to improving the world, bringing blessing to the world, making this world the place that God wanted it to be. That's the whole story of the Bible. God made a world. But the 7th day, we have to remember that the world is just a creation. And it's just a place of work. And it's a thing that we have to fix up. We have to remember that the world shouldn't conquer us. We're working for the boss, for God, the creator. So the 6 days of the week, on one hand, that's our job. On the other hand, the 6 days of the week, they bring us into reality, what's really real. And on Shabbos, we find out, we remind ourselves that God is more real, that God is creating the whole business, and He's creating the business, the whole world, for a reason. Kamokan, it's the same thing as when we work in our business, whatever we work, in physical things. This is called turbulent waters. When afterwards we transform this and go up to godliness by means of our prayers, this is called Neicha de Rucha. This gives pleasure to God. Shehu b'chinas Shabbos. This is like the aspect of Shabbat, like it's known. Shekol tefillah, that all the prayers on the 6 days of the week are just a ray of Shabbat. The day of Shabbat is supposed to be totally devoted to the Creator. That's what it's supposed to be. There's a story about the Baal Shem Tov, that the Baal Shem Tov once took his pupils on Shabbat for a walk. And he told them to look into the window of this, it says Tzadik Echad, a religious Jew sitting with a shtreimel, holy Jew, and he was sitting with his family, and they looked in the window, and they saw this fellow sitting and with his family eating the holy meal of Shabbat, and they saw before their eyes that his face turned into an ox. It was an ox sitting there with a shtreimel. They have this fur hat. His family didn't notice, but the pupils noticed. So they were astounded. In front of their own eyes, they saw a human being turning into an ox. The Baal Shem Tov told them the reason for this, why he showed them this, is because he was getting so much pleasure out of the food. And you're supposed to get pleasure out of food on Shabbat, but Shabbat is God's day. You're supposed to get pleasure on Shabbat because it's a godly day, not because it's a physical day. It's a day that you're free. Vacation day, right? You take a vacation from godliness, from Judaism. You take a vacation from the world. So be more connected to God. And this person, he got so much into the cholent that his will became the cholent, that the cholent conquered him. Instead of the cholent that he ate, the meat that he ate, becoming godly, so he became cholent. So in other words, the day of Shabbat is supposed to be a day that's devoted to the Creator. You think about the Creator, even when you're eating your meals, whatever you do. That's what it means that I swore that I would, God said, I swore, excuse me, that I would never make another flood. God said, even though these flood waters came to purify the world, but not forever will be necessary such a drastic cleaning. Like God said, I have sworn. What was it from the Yoel? I think the prophet Yoel. God said, I've promised that I'll never be angry again. In other words, God, not only with the flood, God said, I'm not going to destroy the world anymore. It's not going to happen. Even though we just explained that by means of this flood, there was a good thing. It says there was a better type of light that came into the world because of this flood. Namely, that we can come to love God with all of our heart, like King David did. In order to float above the troubles of the world, so we come to a new connection with God, like we learned over here. We start thinking about God as the creator of the universe, and He's creating us, and He's creating the heavens, the stars, the angels. God is the creator of the whole thing. But there's another type of love that comes from above. This is a love which is even higher than that which comes from these turbulent waters. What is this? We just explained why the problems of the world and the difficulties of the world and the difficulties that King David had to endure were really for a good purpose, that it forces a person to reveal his soul, his essence, his connection to God. So it says, okay, that's good, but there's something even better. There's a higher type of a love. This is what's called the Aminu Techavkeni, that God's right arm embraces us. A flood of good. Here we have a flood of bad things, troubles, frustrations of the world. But there's a higher type of flood, and that's the flood of love that God is going to show us when in the future. That's what it means. Ahavazu titkalel atid. What's going to be in the days of the Mashiach. Now, Mashiach is going to teach all the Jewish people how to serve God, and the Jewish people are going to be an inspiration for the whole entire world. And this is mainly because of all the troubles the Jews have had, the troubles we're going through right now, right? Where all the world is gradually turning against us. It says that the mountains will be moved and the high places will be shaken. But my love for you, says God, lo yamush, will never move. Ubrit shalomi, and my blessing, my covenant of peace will always remain firm. It'll never be unstable. This is what Mashiach is going to, at the time of the Mashiach, God is going to do some things also. Mashiach is going to teach us to be vessels for these big surprises that God is going to give us. But God is also going to give us surprises. And this surprise is going to be this tremendous chesed elyon, this tremendous love, habam yelamayla, which comes from God. Like it says, my right arm embraces you. This we're supposed to get a little taste of this sitting in the sukkah. Like it says about the Mashiach, that his Gava Ma'od is very, very high. He's even higher than Ma'od, even higher than Adam. Aleph Daled Mem is Adam, and Mashiach is going to be even higher than Adam. This is going to be higher than even the level we just talked about of loving God, but Kol Meodecha. This will be very high. And that's what Mashiach is going to reveal, but it's by virtue of all the troubles that we went through now, but it's going to be something totally incomparable to the love that we can reach now by overcoming and defying these troubles of the world, which are the floodwaters. So that's going to be a new type of a flood, as we're going to talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. And now let's do the Devar Malchut. Here we go. Stop the share. Stop the recording. 1 minute.